There are a lot of conspiracy theories surrounding Antarctica. Are there pyramids down there? Are there ancient civilizations, ruins? Is it a pathway or a hole into a hollow earth? Is it an ice sheet wall that surrounds us? It's mysterious because not many of us have been there or have the tools to legitimately go explore. But the things that are being reported, not from people who are touting conspiracies, but rather simply the scientific community, at least gives me pause and makes me raise my eyebrows and take a second look at what might be happening. Now, there's a connection with Antarctica and CERN in that they have particle detectors on the ice. Smithsonian.com reported in 2010 looking for neutrinos, nature's ghost particles. And in the article it states to capture these ghost particles, elusive entities they call them, physicists have conducted some extraordinary ambitious experiments so that neutrinos aren't confused with cosmic rays, subatomic particles from outer space that do not penetrate the Earth. Detectors are installed deep underground. Enormous ones have been placed in gold and nickel mines, in tunnels beneath mountains, in the ocean, and in Antarctic ice. These strangely beautiful devices are monuments to humankind's resolve to learn about the universe. And again, this is back in 2010, they introduce this thing called IceCube, which is basically a neutrino telescope. Live Science reported on the same thing in December of 2010, world's largest neutrino observatory built at South Pole. And then The Guardian carried it in 2011, the hunt for neutrinos in the Antarctic. The IceCube project has constructed a large detector in the Antarctic ice to find subatomic particles. It could reveal where cosmic rays come from and their cause. We meet the scientists at the pole. So in this article, it talks about the glass ball in his hands, which is a digital optical module, a DOM. And people have covered this, but it's a healthy reminder of what's going on down there. And it says here in the article, the DOM is an exquisitely sensitive light detector that lies at the heart of what must be one of the most ambitious projects in the history of science. By freezing these modules into the ground around the U.S. Amundsen Scott South Pole Station on the high plain of Antarctica, Klein and his colleagues have turned a cubic kilometer of pristine polar ice into an enormous cosmic observatory. And then later in the article he states, quote, "If we can learn how cosmic rays are produced, we might learn something useful for building accelerators on Earth." Again, this was back in 2011. And then in 2013, phys.org, world's largest particle accelerator IceCube detects first high-energy neutrinos from the cosmos. And again, very humanist in their approach and worldview, the IceCube Neutrino Observatory, a particle detector buried in the Antarctic ice, is a demonstration of the power of the human passion for discovery, where science ingenuity meets technological innovation. And these are some pictures of the DOM that turns a sheet of ice into a particle detector. And then in 2013, Space.com reported neutrino detector finds elusive extraterrestrial particle in major breakthrough. And it says, quote, "For decades, scientists have been searching for ghostly neutrino particles from outer space, and now they have finally found them." And then in 2017, SputnikNews.com, Antarctica's Ear, how physicists turned entire continent into particle detector. And basically it talks about how NASA and the National Research Nuclear University and these other places from around the world, they go to Antarctica and they try to help facilitate the discovery of these elusive neutrinos. And this time they sent up air balloons with the hopes that it would find those elusive neutrinos. Quote, "American researchers participating in the ANITA project have been searching for these neutrinos for 10 years now, but haven't found any of the particles. However, that doesn't seem to be a problem yet, since a similar project, the High Elevation Auger Telescope, has managed to detect 2 or 3 dozen of the ultra-high energy cosmic rays during decades of continuous operation." So they've been finding stuff, but not really. And then 2018, Michigan State University, chasing ghost particles from MSU to Antarctica. Now, MSU doesn't really seem to be in a good light right now, with some university professors getting into trouble with some pretty disturbing things, but they have students that are being sent to Antarctica to be part of this whole chasing ghost particles. And then, here we go. 2018, livescience.com. A major physics experiment just detected a particle that shouldn't exist. Now, right from the get-go, how do you detect something that is not supposed to exist? Well, they kind of try to explain it here. Scientists have produced the firmest evidence yet of so-called sterile neutrinos, mysterious particles that pass through matter without interacting with it at all. So how do they detect it if it doesn't interact with matter? Scientists. Okay, so let me read this paragraph for you, okay? This is how crazy it is in the world of science right now, at least what they're telling us, okay? The first hints of these elusive particles turned up decades ago, but after years of dedicated searches, scientists have been unable to find any other evidence for them, with many experiments contradicting these old results. These new results now leave scientists with two robust experiments that seem to demonstrate the existence of sterile neutrinos, even as other experiments continue to suggest sterile neutrinos don't exist at all. That means there is something strange happening in the universe that is making humanity's most cutting-edge physics experiments contradict one another. Now, I find that fascinating that we're at this point where these detectors that are, billions of dollars poured in with all these different locations, well, the one in Antarctica, the one made out of the sheet of ice, they're detecting these elusive neutrinos that aren't supposed to exist. And that data is contradicting the data of other particle accelerators who have been trying to recreate or trying to find these elusive particles or evidence of these elusive particles for decades without any success. And so the article goes into a history of it, and it's interesting because it talks about an experiment follow-up at Fermi National Accelerator Laboratory. That's the Fermi Lab, located near Chicago, which picked up the hidden particles sent again, and in a paper, they stated this, quote, "The new data from Minnie Boone confirms that this tension in the data is real. This data can, to my best knowledge, not be fitted with the standard framework. It requires either new particles, sterile neutrinos, or some kind of symmetry violation." And that's Sabine Hostenfelder, May 31st, 2018. So again, even in the world of science, cutting-edge science, they can't figure out what exactly is going on. And apparently, the giant sheet of ice detector is saying, oh yeah, there are these non-particle particles that don't interact with matter, but somehow our giant ice sheet telescope is able to pick them up. And here's the data, and it's being considered in the scientific community because it holds weight. It has scientific significance, or data significance at the very least. So again, is this the beginning of the teardown of materialism? And I'll tie it into this story that we reported on Canary Cry News Talk last week. This is the Telegraph. Yahoo picked it up. Demonic possession is real and victims seeking exorcism should not be ignored. Prominent psychiatrist on The World Beyond. And this was interesting because this was a Princeton and Yale educated mainstream psychiatrist who believes demonic possession is indeed real and said that most of Americans agree with him. Now again, Yahoo picked up this same story and they basically republished this Telegraph article. And the Pope is actually quoted not to hesitate to get people help, exorcisms, to address genuine spiritual disturbances. And he described the rite of exorcism as a delicate and necessary ministry. And he said that the exorcist priests must be selected with great care and great prudence. Now, I think this is something that most people aren't paying attention to. But if there is a rise of demonic possession, or at least this change in modern science where contradictions and quantum science together creates this chaotic sci-fi world because we don't really know from a materialist standpoint, what exactly is the foundational building block? Because they keep going down and they keep discovering these different layers and different particles and things like that. When it comes to material science, they really have no clue why anything is there to begin with. They just are trying to figure out the how and the what. So in that regard, I think it's interesting that culturally, societally, we are moving back to a more supernatural worldview. And I think it's precisely to create the Great Deception atmosphere. If you think about it, materialism, the theory of evolution, and just atheism in general created a vacuum, a spiritual vacuum in culture and society. And I think they did it at a time when they knew something like the internet would become available freely and openly to anybody who wants to participate, and the people will love it because it's more free content, it's more, information, it's all this stuff. And so they created the atheistic atmosphere at that time to create that spiritual vacuum in this time when great technological advancements are taking place. And when they have to bring the institutions and the pillars of society back into the supernatural worldview fold, they can control the messaging from top to bottom. And the Vatican leading the way here, being, Catholics and being Christian, quote unquote, and the Pope, who is the first Jesuit Pope, leading the way, saying, hey, we need to deploy these exorcist priests. And my point has been with this, basically he's saying that he needs to have this priest class, this modern day sort of spiritual crusaders who aren't, trying to take over or anything like that, but more so they are these spiritual authorities in exorcism, in getting rid of demons and things like that. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. The Vatican is going to start saying, hey, they're the ones that have this authority. They will deploy the priests, exorcist priests, because they're going to have to be selected with great care and great prudence. And of course, the Vatican will be the one to decide who will fall into that category. But biblically speaking, we have the authority, as believers in Christ, we have the authority to deliver demons in the name of Jesus Christ, in the name of our Father. And so this sort of suggestion that you have to rely on authority, that's New World Order, that's Illuminati, that's totalitarian mindset in the form of religion. And I'm not saying that, they don't have some sort of edge or at least some kind of methodology to really make demons go away. In that moment, they probably do, but it doesn't seem like it's something that is predicated on the power of God. It's more predicated on rituals and procedures, which leads me to believe that it's more in the form of magic or sorcery. But in any case, the reason why I bring this up is because I think, tying this together with the story of Antarctica, materialism, and I've been saying this and people in this community have been saying it for a while, materialism is dying in the institutions. It's philosophically bankrupt. It's now starting to show that it is materially, measurably bankrupt by creating all sorts of contradictions with the highest and most sophisticated machines, investigating creation. I think the vacuum has been created. Now it's time to institute that new spirituality as part of the new world order. And it's going to involve a one world religious sort of system, but it's going to have probably different iterations, different expressions, they will say, of how to deal with this sort of interdimensional reality that we are all being exposed to, which the Bible declared right from the get-go. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, spiritual wickedness in heavenly places. These are entities that are beyond the physical realm, and they seem to be a particular group of elite humans, or perhaps some who are transitioning between human and something else, and they are the ones that think they're receiving these instructions from the gods and then perpetrating it onto the governments through the world banks and everything else. A lot of people look at the carnal pyramid going up towards that all-seeing eye, and they see, the elite group, the bankers, or the Jews, or the Jesuits, or, it's always one group. And certainly things get pretty narrow up at the top. But I truly believe that there is a dark group that we don't see, that we can't identify just through the institutions that are public. I think there are many who are behind them that we never see, that we never hear about, and those are the ones that are really controlling a lot of this stuff, but they are the ones who are being really led by spiritual wickedness, by the principalities and powers that whisper these things into their ears and get them to build the things of Satan, not of God. And so there is a war at hand. It's not a carnal war, though. It's a spiritual war, and we're in the thick of it. Now, to bring this back to Antarctica and thinking about all the possible things that are happening out there or down there, wherever, I was recently listening to a Cliff High interview, and think of what you will of Cliff High if you're familiar with his work. Some of it is interesting, some of it I disagree with vehemently, but he mentioned a company called SAIC, who are basically contracted by the government to have control over everything happening in Antarctica. Okay, now, so I decided to look into this. Now, this is the SAIC website. First thing you notice, very similar to a lot of other contracted government websites, very friendly, professional business, all that kind of stuff. And but already, if you start looking at some of the things that are being written here, it's very interesting. First off, this is where ingenuity goes to work. From imagining the best the future can be to envisioning new paths to get there, SAIC sees the world differently. We build upon the best ideas and solutions, redefining ingenuity in new and surprising ways. All right, so they got strength and survivability. We're upgrading vehicles to advance force capabilities and increase troop safety while redefining the way platforms are delivered. Why all the redefining stuff? Now, this was the one that I found kind of weird. All right, trained to be calm. With our superior understanding of the human mind. What? What company? I'm sorry, I think it's hilarious. What company puts on their homepage, with our superior understanding of the human mind, we create immersive experiences to enhance learning and elevate performance even under the most stressful conditions. Okay, you're building super soldiers. Thank you very much. This company on the cyber hunt adversaries. Okay, so all right, already you're going, what in the world is going on here? Crazy. Now, if you go up to services and solutions, there is a tab called intelligence services. And if you go into that, oh my goodness. All right, so you got increased speed in moving from data to action. All right, they know that technology is always evolving, which is why we focus on innovative solutions to help warfighters achieve their missions, no matter where they operate, land, air, sea, space, or cyberspace. There you go, cyberspace is now warfare ground. We can ensure that your organization receives the planning, engineering, management, and analytics support needed on time and on budget. With deep experience in national security across intelligence community organizations and agencies, we provide services for collection and processing, combination of mission and technical expertise to support end-to-end capabilities through the entire intelligence lifecycle now and in the future. Basically, collect all the data. Analytic methodologies, tools and dissemination, connecting the dots to enable faster decision-making through intelligence analysis, information technology, and cyber capabilities. And then IC, intelligence community management support, just a friendly, behind-the-wall social media for intelligence agents. And then later down here, this is really, really telling, guys. Innovative intelligence solutions. SAIC brings together government, military, industry, and academic expertise to develop, test, and deliver solutions that keep you ahead of threats and allow you to meet your mission goals. Right. That's what I need. I need this stuff. I need a command and control from above. And it says here that they have systems, engineering, and integration. Systems engineering for collecting and processing satellite intelligence data. Wow. And then space situational awareness, giving you knowledge and awareness to enable appropriate courses of action. Space control, including operational support to preserve and protect space assets and capabilities, and to prevent and monitor adversarial space exploitation. Okay. Now, This phrase here, space situational awareness, jumped out at me right away because in the book that was never published, Cosmic Endgame, I have a little section here that talked about space weapons. I'm just going to read it for you. Because of these global agreements, and I'm talking about, I think it was the 1967 Outer Space Treaty, and there was other stuff that was done, instigated by the United Nations, the Pentagon would never reveal the true progress of such weapons. However, despite such treaties, it is documented fact that such technologies are part of the plans for military deployment. In a document entitled U.S. Air Force Transformation Flight Plan published by the Air Force in November of 2003, a plethora of future weapons technology is listed, not the least of which are the hypervelocity rod bundles. And I talk about the rod bundles here. And in that same document, if you go to the enhance the capability and survivability section, I actually quoted it in the book here. It states, in addition to exploiting space for their own purposes. All right, so if we go back, exploiting space was that key word that we saw here. Where is it? There it is. Space exploitation. Future adversaries will also likely seek to deny U.S. forces unimpeded access to space. Space surveillance, ground-based lasers and space jamming capabilities, and proximity microsatellites are becoming increasingly available. A key objective for transformation, therefore, is not only to ensure the U.S. ability to exploit space for military purposes, but also as required to deny an adversary's ability to do so. They want to control missiles, basically, if there's space-bound missiles or something going towards the country. This is the whole idea of protectionism and the Iron Dome gone mad, the Star Wars project of the 80s with Reagan. But let me keep reading here. In recognition of the high technology force multipliers provided by space systems, the QDR places increased emphasis on developing the capabilities to conduct space operations. Ensuring freedom of access to space and protecting U.S. national security interests are key priorities that must be reflected in future investment decisions. Key unclassified Air Force programs and future system concepts to establish effective space situational awareness include, there it is, space situational awareness. They include counter surveillance and reconnaissance system, rapid attack identification, detection and reporting system, orbital deep space imager, space-based space surveillance system, space tracking and surveillance system, compact environmental anomaly sensor 2 ACTD, and communication navigation outage forecasting system ACTD. And if that wasn't enough, specific projects with a brief description of their purpose are given in a chart suggesting that such projects are well underway. And some of the more profound titles: Evolutionary Air and Space Global Laser Engagement, or EAGLE. The EAGLE project is basically a space-based laser project, which is very interesting. What was the thing that had eagle's wings? Maybe there is a different modern application there that we can look into. Global Hawk is another one. It's a UAV and ISR payload. And then I get into some other weapons there. But in any case, we know for sure now that this is basically the same language being used in that document from 2003 in the intelligence services section of the SAIC website. So why is this important? Well, they have a company called Leidos, a subsidiary, I believe. And Leidos, what do? They turn challenges into opportunity. And our people, our community, our environment, they got a little history here. Chairman Roger Crone. And again, they have their capabilities. They have civil, but they also have defense and intelligence. And they have this contract with Antarctica, the Antarctic Support Contract, the ASC, supporting scientific research on the highest, driest, coldest, windiest, and emptiest place on Earth. Requires exceptional logistics and planning expertise. A few unique challenges, blah, blah, blah: supply chain, ice and snow, weather conditions, remote field camps, ice-breaking vessels, stations, labs, and it's really, really cold. And Leidos is the prime contractor for the National Science Foundation's United Antarctic program. So there you go. They are contracted with Antarctica to do what? Data management? Supply chain management? Keeping them warm? I don't know. But we know that the military has their fingerprints. The secret intelligence military, not just the American military. This is the defense and intelligence. This is the military industrial complex has their fingers all over Antarctica at the corporate level. And this is not surprising because, again, the government can't directly do these things anymore. They use corporations as the scapegoat to create these programs, to fund them, and then to carry them out. So a lot discussed in this video here, just kind of a ramble along all kinds of different topics, mainly surrounding Antarctica and this news about discovering the particles that don't exist. I'm not saying that this one event is going to shatter the current scientific paradigm, but you can tell that it's getting chipped away slowly and slowly, and all these quote-unquote discoveries at the particle level, at the quantum levels and things like that, that contradict standard philosophical deductions from scientific materialism. It leads to nihilism. It leads to a purposeless universe where all the things that you think are important are just illusory. And if you want to believe that, you can, but it's true in the Bible where it says, only a fool says there is no God, because look at creation. Look at the world around us, the way things are set, the way things are put together. And yes, we have this ability to control or manipulate that, but that's part of what CERN is about too. It's about being God, humanity trying to be God, because if you think about the joke, there's a joke about, some atheists or some scientists came around and they were going to recreate the creation story, build Adam and Eve. And so the first thing they were thinking was, all right, well, what kind of dirt should we use? And God steps in and goes, wait, get your own dirt. You got to make your own dirt, right? And the point being like, wait a minute, you're only coming in and manipulating what's already there. No. You need to create things, existence, ex nihilo. That's what God did, right? So in that sense, creating matter from nothing, quote unquote, from nothing, and then being able to fabricate their own reality. That's basically becoming God. That's what CERN is trying to do. That's why they're trying to figure out the minute details about creation so that they can make their own creation, or they can take over this creation. I know it sounds crazy, but if you really think about it, it makes sense. Like people that are in that world and they're stuck in it and they're on that train, it's like you can see where the train's going. And again, these are just more warning signs, more signposts that are saying, hey, time's getting short. Get your heart right with God, because that's the only thing that's going to really get you through any of this, regardless of what you believe, when the timing of the this or whatever translation or whatever. Bottom line, things are going to start changing around us. Not that change itself is bad, but there are certain areas where I think it's very easy to see the days of Noah happening all around us all over again. So with that being said, I hope this video makes you think about stuff. Please share it with friends and family. Thank you so much for your support. Have an awesome day, guys. God bless.